there, and welcome back to another review. Today we're going to be talking about one of my all-time, there's so many classic Sammo hungs to get through. I've covered a few of them already, but today we're going to be looking at a real classic Sammo, and that is Millionaires Express. Was called Shanghai Express when I used to. I think in some countries it might still be called Shanghai Express, but when I had it on VHS back in the day, here in the UK, it was called Shanghai's Express. And obviously Cynthia Rothrock being a huge big thing at the time, it was just basically her on the cover of the video that I had. There was no Sammo or Yuen on the front, it was just Cynthia Rothrock, so they were sort of plugging her big time. But a really, really great film, a classic Sammo in every sense of the word. Made in 1986, directed by Sammo Hung, of course, and it's sort of like a Western kung fu comedy here. It's sort of a real big ensemble cast going on, a real great cast of characters in this film. Really amazing, really great performers in this film, from Yuen, Lam Ching Ying, Huang Jin Lee, Eric Tsang, Rosamund, Kwan, Cynthia Rothrock, Richard Norton. It goes on and on. There's a huge Jimmy Wang Yu. There's so many people in this movie, and there's a lot to get through today. I do understand your time is precious, so I will not try to keep you too long, but just giving you my thoughts and opinions on Millionaires Express. This is Sammo at his director's peak here. Much like when he done Eastern Condors a year later, Sammo was really on a roll at this point. He was really at sort of his creative high. He was really absolutely just on fire. He just couldn't put a foot wrong. He was doing sort of what he was doing was very groundbreaking at the time, and obviously in the mid-80s, at that height of the Hong Kong kung fu boom. The Hong Kong, kung fu like sort of action movies that Hong Kong was so great at doing, but just that golden era that we had in the 80s. Like I say, doing classic film after classic film. I mean, he made Eastern Condors year after that, he made Dragons Forever. So he was very much just flowing. It was just, Sammo was just doing amazing work here. As I say, he was at like the peak of his director's powers, where it's just effortless, in the way it seems to be. The film is very unique in that the town of Han Shui is very much like a Western town that you would find in any classic sort of old school cowboy movie. Jackie Chan was originally meant to appear in this movie, but there was rumours, I'm not sure how just or true it is, but there was rumours that on the set of Twinkle Twinkle, him and Sammo were sort of butting heads. Not a lot, but that they were it was becoming a bit strained between the two. I mean, obviously after Dragons Forever, they didn't work together too frequently at that point. But I think there was definitely some things that happened on the set of Twinkle Twinkle. I'm not saying they come to blows or anything like that, or argued. I think there might have been a little bit of friction, and also as well at the fact, I think at the time, the same year, Jackie Chan was obviously shooting Armour of God and things like that. So I'm not saying they fell out, but I think it was said or rumoured there was, like I say, a bit of like friction between the two brothers. What set these films apart? If you like, the ending of the movie especially, usually if any type of Hong Kong action, there would usually be a one-on-one face-off, any kind of classic kung fu action movie. That's what sets this film apart. Is like there would usually be a showdown between like the main guy and the evil villain. But what we get at the end of this film is very interesting. That everybody's involved. Everybody's involved at the end of this movie. It's like a massive rumble, and Sammo sort of cuts between each individual fight and each individual action piece in turn, which is great, as I say, at his director's peak here. Just the way he just mixes it up, goes from that scene to these two fighting, to this lot fighting. Really great, fun stuff. So when the film starts, you will notice there is scope right away, much like Eastern Condors the year after. Starts with like sort of Sammo's character looting from what he thinks are some like dead Russians, but turns out they, comedically they're just on a training exercise. They kidnap him and sort of make him dance and dress like a woman. Sammo gets like a grenade off of one of them and sort of blows their hut up, just sort of somersaults out the window, throwing that sort of like grenades behind him, blowing them to kingdom come. Then this ranger, played by Kenny B, shows up, and who's after Ching Fon Tin, Sammo's character, and both sort of end up rolling down the mountain in a snowball. It's worth mentioning this scene was largely filmed in Canada, and Sammo spends a lot of his time here just in shorts and his underwear, so it must have been quite cold. It must have been quite chilly. So Sammo sort of overpowers him and he takes his clothes. Then we see some bandits on horseback featuring Cynthia Rothrock, Richard Norton, Dick Way's there, Chong Fat's there, real people that usually crop up in Sammo Hung movies and just any of the, so I say, the old school Jackie Chan, Sammo sort of Hong Kong action flicks. And we learn that there are some Japanese who are on board and like the train, and they have the map to like the Terracotta Army, and James Chen is in this as well, sort of wants it. And the town of Hon Swoi it's a very poor, run-down town. We meet this group of like prostitutes, then we have this group of women who come in to sort of protest, and Sammo gives this hilarious speech about, they're doing your husbands a favour, and he's sort of sticking up for them, and these people, they're sort of anti-prostitution. It ends with them sort of all applauding all these prostitutes, like, thanks for helping, thanks for doing your bit. And Sammo's speech makes no sense whatsoever, but it's meant, that's the joke. It's meant to be, it's sort of he made them believe something else, that they sort of, just changed their mind, done a completely 180 about what they were protesting against. So Hon Swoi, like, we meet Eric Tsang, Yuen and Lam Ching Ying, who are like sort of the police. We got Wu Ma here, Meng Hoi, and they sort of start a fire. And watch out for a cameo as well from Bolo Yeung in this, most notably from sort of Bloodsport, Enter the Dragon. He makes a very brief appearance in this movie. Yuen works for the fire brigade, watch out for the scene where the like sort of fat lady jumps and they all sort of rip the safety net just as she's about to land. Great funny stuff. Yuen then goes to save like a blind girl, and look no further. I mean, I remember watching this for the first time. And, there's an amazing thing that Yuen does. He's sort of on top of this building, and just look no further than him, doing a flip off said building that is God knows how high. And in the same take, he does the flip, walks to the other actors, carries on talking and acting. They don't slow it down. They don't do any fancy camera angles or anything like that. Yuen just does this flip all in one take, lands it, walks over to like the people. I mean, there is some height on this building. This isn't just, a couple of like few feet. This is way up, and he just does this sort of side flip off the building, and just in one take just carries on acting and talk. It's incredible, absolutely. I remember when I first saw that, I was like, geez, what absolutely amazing stuff. So yeah, first time I saw that, I just couldn't believe it, all in one shot. So the whole purpose of starting the fire, basically, Eric Tsang and his crew is like, who is now sort of, Eric Tsang is sort of now a Stitch. You may remember him sort of from My Lucky Stars, Twinkle Twinkle. He was in Hitman with Jet Li. So he's on stilts, so he sort of won't be recognised, so they can all go and rob the bank. I mean, it's quite hilarious. You've got the police causing a distraction so they can go and rob the bank, and that's how this film is. It's very light-hearted, it's very fun, and you look at the parallel, like not parallels, but if you look at the difference between something like this, very comedic, loads of like a group of characters, to something that Sammo did a year later with Eastern Condors. Two totally different movies, two totally different tones, two totally different, as I say, just pieces of cinema, but both enjoyable, both enjoyable in many ways. But this film is definitely done more, it's tongue-in-cheek, it's meant to be laughed at, it's the kind of film, like, sort of younger people in the audience would find a lot of fun in this movie. And a lot of the comedy does translate really well. A lot of it does, it really does. Some of the funny stuff is really good stuff. So he's now in stilts, and they're going to rob this bank. And I just love how he's always so incompetent, and none of his plans ever work. Much like a sort of a Dick Dastardly, sort of, and Wacky Races, or their flying machines, that no matter what he comes up with, it never works. It never goes as smooth as he wants it to. And he's got these crew who are sort of Lam Ching Ying and Yuen no less, who are sort of, he's the leader, but they're always like, right, okay, boss, what are we doing now? And it's just that aesthetic, which just it's great fun stuff. I love it when Yuen saying to the mayor, like, say something positive. He's going, right, just the town's, try and say something to keep people's morale up, keep things upbeat, and try and keep positive. And the mayor proceeds to go on and just says basically, yeah, the town's finished. Please, leave, move on, go on to pastures new. We have no hope here. Let's move on. It's just funny stuff, that you don't need to think too hard about. Then we meet Richard and his wife, and here he is, like you may remember him from like Winners and Sinners. He was in Miracles as well with Jackie Chan, and he has like this deerstalker hat here, and he's always trying to sneak away from his wife so that he can sort of see his lover. I mean, what's so funny about this is he's probably the least guy you would ever expect who would be having an affair and cheating. That's sort of the joke about it as well. It's sort of Richard and just trying to sneak away from his wife to see his lover. Jimmy Wang Yu and Shik Kien play kung fu masters, and even though they're polite to each other, they sort of hate each other. They did try to get Kwan Hing, who many of you will know from sort of Magnificent Butcher, who all played Wong Fei Hung in a variety of movies from back in the day, but he didn't want to do it. But they get Jimmy Wang Yu and Shik Kien here, and it's just funny between the two. It's really funny stuff because they'll say they're masters and they got their kids with them. They're making out. They're all respectful for each other, but every time the train goes through a tunnel, at one point they keep punching each other, or the kid hits the other kid, and every time they come out of the tunnel, one of them's got a bruise or a black eye or something like that. It's just, like I say, really some really funny stuff in this movie. So Sammo turns up to the town, and we learn that he has a reputation, that people don't want him there, but he has come to sort of redeem himself in the township, and he buys everything up, and Yuen wants to know what he is up to. Sammo plans to stop the train that's coming through so people will sort of spend money in Honsoi, and Sammo and Yuen have like a brief but fantastic little fight sequence on the train platform. Very good stuff here, really fast stuff between the two, as you would expect, some tight choreography. Just doesn't go on too long, unfortunately, but I think that was the idea, where Sammo's got to sort of squeeze everything in. Not a fight sequence can go on too long. So Sammo ends up winning the fight scenes. A real funny scene where Richard goes across the top of the carriages to see his lover, and he sees Lau Kao Wing, who's working for James 10, and he's gone to sort of spy on the drivers. And it's just the way they pass each other on the roof. He's like, why am I keep seeing? And he sees him later on the roof, on another roof in town, and on the train. It's like, why do I keep seeing you on the roof? Why are we both sort of passing each other all the time on top of roofs? Again, just a visual gag. So that's what's so great about this film, much like, say, something like Laurel and Hardy. So many of the gags, it doesn't matter what age you are or what nationality you are, it just translates, like I mentioned earlier. It's not something you have to think too hard about. It's not something that you think, oh, I didn't understand that. It's very much a visual type of humour that universally, hopefully, can be understood. Then they even, like I say, they even meet each other again on another roof, which is just funny stuff. Then we have what is probably the most funniest scene in the whole movie, which just had me belly laughing when I first saw it, and still does. I watched it again recently, and I still absolutely love this. Laughed my head off at this scene. With Eric Tsang using sort of magnets to get on board the train, he ends up getting sort of stuck to the side of the train, and you have Lam Ching Ying sort of using like this lasso, and as Richard N's sort of walking across the carriage back from seeing his lover, he gets this lasso round his neck, so Lam Ching Ying's sort of holding on, going along by horseback, and Richard's trying to struggle to get this. Bearing in mind, Eric Tsang as well at this point is just stuck to the side of one of the train carriages, and Lam Ching Ying has to sort of run along. Eric is sort of screaming for help. I mean, first time I saw that, I just could not stop laughing. I thought it was such a funny scene. It still is. So the train stops and people come into the town. The whole film is basically a lot of skits that work really well together, and I would say is almost a contender. It's definitely up there in Sammo's funniest film. Not necessarily would you say it's most, there's loads of action in this film, but in regards to comedy, you're looking at other films like Winners and Sinners, but this especially it's just done for giggles. It's violent as well, like some of the end fight is quite violent, but the skits and some of the characters in this, there's just too many to say, it's not that funny, because it is a really funny film. Largely due to the setup, the direction and the ensemble cast, who are really on form here. Everybody is just on form. I absolutely love the scene where Richard tells his wife he is a secret agent, and everybody else hiding in the room comes out, and they're saying, I'm agent number 2, I'm agent number 3, and he's like, who are you lot? Like, why are you in my room? Because they want to get out as well. They want to get out of the room. I can't do it justice describing that scene. You'll have to watch it for yourself, or maybe you have, and you've seen Millionaires Express, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So Kenny B turns up and puts Sammo in prison, and then breaks out. Sammo breaks out and finds out the town has been overrun by bandits. He breaks everyone out of jail, and they all must sort of work together to sort of like defend the town. There's some real toilet humor in this movie, which a lot of Chinese audiences, I believe, find absolutely hysterical. For example, when they're firing sort of the Gatling gun. The sort of Gatling gun, Sammo sort of urinating on top of it to sort of cool it down. There's, you can say there's sort of lowbrow humour, but I think sort of that kind of thing, especially back in the day, played really well to sort of some audiences. They just, find that stuff hysterical. And we get the end, Sammo doing some awesome stick fighting here. Yuen having a fantastic showdown with Dick Wei. There's even, most notably, you've got Yuen rolling up the banisters. He's sort of laying like torso on one side of the banisters, feet on the other side of the banister, and he rolls up, not downwards, he rolls up the banister and then flips backwards onto another set of stairs. Just incredible stuff. Yuen just absolutely just amazing stuff. So when you'll see it, you'll know the scene and even Richard Norton in this, when he's fighting, he says painful, in a reference to sort of his character and his lines that he said at the end fight against Sammo in Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars. I think he ends up, I think I said in another review that it was something I was talking about, and I mentioned this, but I think Richard Norton, from as I recall, he gets stabbed at the bum. I think that's sort of what happens to his character. I think he does get stabbed at the bum. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what happens to him. So Sam, of course, has a great showdown with Cynthia Rothrock, and that's what a lot of people remember from this movie, the showdown between him and Cynthia. Very brief, but a lot of people said, it was the Hong Kong action movie industry that gave Cynthia more respect than sort of Hollywood ever did. They showed Cynthia Rothrock a lot more justice than what sort of Hollywood did in the films she did in the US and things. She at this point, she's most famous and notable for sort of Yes Madam, that kind of film. We get to see Sammo channel his inner Bruce Lee, something we had not seen sort of at this point till much since like sort of Enter the Fat Dragon. I don't know if any of you out there have seen Enter the Fat Dragon. It really should get a re-release, Enter the Fat Dragon, because it's an absolute amazing film. Just Sammo playing this young sort of his character just absolutely adores Bruce Lee. So if any of you have seen Enter the Fat Dragon, just let me know, because it's probably, like I say, one of my top Sammo movies. So he says that's like a mini Bruce Lee impersonation, something I'd say we've seen years before. They have a good fight. It's meant to be regarded to be because Cynthia Rothrock is a match for Sammo. They say they have a really good counter here. See Huang Jianli doing some amazing kicks as always. His speed still second to none. Absolutely fast, amazing footwork from Huang Jianli. And it sort of ends with the town keeping the map, sort of this map they're after, and it's sort of because it belongs to the Chinese people. And that sort of wraps up Millionaires Express. A really fun movie, and a classic from Sammo's back catalogue. And if you've never seen it, please go and check it out, because it's, as I say, not in terms of there's great action in it, but in terms of comedy and just that sense of fun, just very much light-hearted, very visual gags. Just please check it out. If nothing else, just check it out for, like I say, just that one scene that I love with Lam Ching-ying, Eric Tsang and Richard, and just them just trying to get on board this train. And there's, like I say, there's a great fight between Sammo and Yuen doing some great flips and stunt work in this movie. There's just so much going for it, and there's so much to, like I say, to sort of get across and talk about that I could go on and on about Millionaires Express. But thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the review, and I'll see you again soon.